ahead and introduce me.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Hi, it's Doug Morris with CSI. Thanks for joining us this morning, or if you are in the States, and we had a couple registrants that were joining from the States. Good evening. Today, we're going to be doing our page filter, best practices, and product overview. Zach's going to be running the show today, and what we're really focusing on here is a core overview for clients that already have the product. So we do invite everyone that has a CSI product, but this presentation really is designed around people that have the product. So with that said, because your time's valuable, I'm going to let Zach take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Doug. Good morning, everybody. Like Doug said, we're going to be covering PageFilter, the best practice and product overview today. But why are you here? Well, you might own PageFilter, but maybe you own something else of ours, like iMerge, our tool to handle and find duplicates in your IMIS database, iEmail, our Outlook integration tool for IMIS, and coming soon, the iEmail Cloud, which will work with Office 365 in the web browser. Maybe you own iMove. If you're in Australia, you probably don't, but it's a national change of address moving software. Very popular meeting closer, which allows you to close events and expos without losing any of that detail. Freight rate importer, for those of you that ship with freight by weight. iImport, the easiest tool out there to import new records or update existing records in your IMIS database. IMAP, which is our Google geolocation service. They'll grab the latitude and longitude for your members' addresses. Activity Importer Plus, which will allow you to import new activities from either an Excel file or create them up from a IQA, and also allows you to import gifts into your database. iDonate, our single page giving solution. iDocument, which will allow you to document your entire IMIS setup. Profile Editor, which allows you to gather whatever information you want from your members. It's a very configurable tool. And FREs, which is also known as Fundraising Made Easy, which will allow you to edit gifts and pledges that have already been posted. And you probably own PageFilter. So that's what we're here to talk about today. So our agenda is we're going to go over the history of PageFilter, a little bit of the why and the how behind it, a day in the life of using PageFilter, what's new and some important tips, how to get the latest version, how to get help, and then at the end, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in throughout the presentation, and we will address them during the Q&A session at the end. And this webinar is also being recorded, and so you can access that later as well. So a little bit about the why. PageFilter was originally created because there were things about IMIS that we wanted to be able to change on the web. And we had two options at that time. We could either tweak and add miscellaneous web config files and settings to get our desired response, or we could have our developers create an HTTP handler, and that would grab the data and transform it before it got back to the browser. But there are two issues with this. And those two issues were, one, nobody's really great at keeping track of all the tweaks that you made. You have turnover, you have multiple people doing things, it's very hard to keep track of all that. You don't know which ones you're using or which ones you still need. And number two, you always needed to go back to the developer for changes where they'd have to maybe tweak their HTTP handler, recompile it and reinstall it, and they probably broke something. And so this made upgrades a challenge. This made the whole process somewhat difficult. And really, the member site was never perfect after an upgrade because you missed a lot of these things. You didn't have everything documented. Maybe you lost that IT person. Maybe the HTTP handler broke. So it really just became a pain. So therefore, we created PageFilter. We wanted to make this a much easier process for everyone because we know there's things about IMIS on the web that you want to change. So we created PageFilter, and it allows technical consultants to make changes to RISE pages, iParts, public view pages on the fly, and that can include anything from text replacement, variable text replacement, or even URL redirects. And the really cool thing is all the changes stay with an upgrade, so you don't have to worry about keeping a list or remembering what you did and then reapplying it after an upgrade. All this is saved. and it even saves after a patch as well. And with, let's say in the future, maybe you created a rule with PageFilter and you no longer need it. You can actually just turn off the rules. It's very easy. So let's say we're looking at a day in the life of a regular PageFilter user. Something that you might want to do, maybe you need to replace text, like changing the text of IMIS-ID to member number, because your members probably don't know what an IMIS-ID is, right? Well, PageFilter can do that. Maybe you need to inject text, like adding the pound symbol in front of a price. We have a lot of international customers that use IMIS, and that's something that's very common. Well, PageFilter can do that as well. Or maybe you even need to hide an area of an iPart, like removing the notes area when adding in an address, or perhaps you have a register someone else feature on your website and you want to hide the other members' addresses. That's something that PageFilter can do as well. So let's take a look at it, shall we? So I've got my handy-dandy IMIS website out here. And if we look at this record, you can see I've got a couple things here, IMIS-ID, Renew Now. And those are some things that I want to change with PageFilter. So I'm going to open it up, and it's with all the rest of your favorite programs in the CSI Programs folder. You'll notice that the user guide is installed right next to it. And I'm going to open up PageFilter. I'm going to pull open my recent file here. And these are the rules. And in the interest of time, I've already created some rules that I'm just going to turn on. But this first rule is what I kind of just talked about. I'm going to change this IMIS-ID to member number, and I'm going to change this Renew Now button to say Renew My Dues. So I'm going to enable this rule that I've already created. I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to refresh the page, and you're going to see these changes happen immediately. So the member number's changed, the Renew My Dues is changed. Look at this other rule that I've created. I've got a couple things here. One, I want to make some changes and say, change the checkbox that says preferred mailing address and say, make this my preferred mailing address. Lots of people want to make sure that it's very clear to their members what they're doing, so they want to maybe add more description. And then I'm going to also replace this area here where I want to get rid of this notes box. It's a silly notes box. I don't want my members to fill it out because I can't actually even see it in back office IMIS. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page after I enable my rule. Now if I go back in here, you'll notice the text has changed to make this my preferred, make this my preferred shipping, make this my preferred billing, and that notes box is gone. So it's very powerful because you don't have to get rid of the whole iPart. You can actually just hide sections of the iPart. And then my final rule that I'll show you here is what I kind of talked about in the PowerPoint, is I want to replace on my Commerce tab. You'll notice that IMIS doesn't put a dollar or pound symbol in front of any price, and that's something that I want to add. And in this case, I want to show a pound symbol because I'm working with a British customer. So I'm going to go in my rule here. I'm going to enable it. Then I'm going to refresh the page. You notice it added it to all of my pricing here. So just a couple things that a lot of people are doing that are using PageFilter. So now I'm going to turn this over to Doug for a second. He wants to talk about the debug mode and some really good tips for that.
Thanks, Zach. So one of the things we thought we would cover here that's pretty important for clients that are using PageFilter, and this came about recently with one of our clients, running into some challenging here, and that really is we want to talk about debug mode. So there's two modes for debug mode. There's HTML and header. Zach, go ahead and click that for me. And those two modes are headers for the geeks. It's less intrusive, so it's a sneaky way to kind of tell you what's going on a page with PageFilter, and it doesn't break other things. However, the other mode is HTML. And HTML is really easy to use, and it can and will affect the IMUS desktop. So you got to be real careful when you turn on HTML mode. So we've added a brand new feature now to the latest version of PageFilter, which is coming out this week. And that is when you go to turn it on, you get this nice warning message. And it says, hey, heads up. When you turn on debugging mode, and by the way, debugging mode is really the key to PageFilter. It tells you what page you're adjusting. It tells you what rules are in effect. It tells you all sorts of fun things. So when you go to turn it on, it says, just a heads up, this can cause problems with your IMUS desktop. Really only HTML causes issue, but our developers want to be real careful here, and they're going to warn you that either of those two can cause issues. So when you turn on debugging in this latest version that's coming out, you get this nice big warning. Now, let's look at what HTML is. When we look at HTML, when I turn on HTML debugging, if I right mouse click or I do a Control U on any page, if I right mouse click and choose View Page Source, or I do a Control U, I get all the information that's going on. Now, this is header mode. It's very easy to see. So if you want to just go in there, check out something real quick, and then go turn off debug mode, that's great. You're not going to affect anybody. But in this case, we can see, hey, PageFilter tells you the version. It'll tell you your license status. So if you're not seeing PageFilter work and the license status says invalid, you know why. It then tells you, here are the rules that are actually in effect for the page you're looking at. Here are some other rules that I know about, but they're in effect, but they're not being acted upon for this page. We have our disabled rules. These would be any rules that, hey, you thought something should be happening, but you actually disabled the rule. And then finally, we have the most important thing is, what page is this actually on? And that's the URL you're going to need to give the PageFilter when you actually make a change. So super powerful here, the ability to see what's going on a given page and what needs to change. So that's header mode. I'm sorry, that's HTML mode. That will break the drop downs on the left nav in IMUS. So the other option is to turn on header mode. That's where we're going to bury this information in the top of the page in the header. It's not going to affect IMUS. It's very a non-intrusive kind of way. So what we thought was important to show you, if you want to turn on debug mode for headers, which means you don't want to break your IMUS desktop, then you turn that on, and what you want to do is get the header information. And the way you get it out of Chrome, Edge, and Firefox are all a little bit different. But once you get that header info, what we want you to do is copy that. And so this is how to use debug mode when you're putting in the header. So if you're in Chrome, you're going to hit F12. You're going to hit headers. Sorry, it's a little hard to see. You're going to click on that number 2 there, which is the page you're on, and then down on the number 3 there says, PageFilter debug. So you're just going to copy that. Edge is similar. Network, click on the top website on the left, the number 2, and then number 3, you're going to right mouse click and copy the PageFilter information down there. And finally, Firefox, same thing. F2, you're going to click on Network. You're going to click on the top. Normally, it's the top one found, and then you're going to go down to PageFilter debug, and you're going to copy it there. The bad news is it's debug mode. Everything's separated by semicolons. So you want to go into Notepad++, free little utility out there, and if you paste this in there, and then use the replace feature in Notepad, it's going to go ahead and clean up that header information so you can actually see what's going on. And so the left side's what it looks like when you pasted it in. The right side is after you've done the replace. Same sort of thing, matching code, other rules, that kind of information. So that's the non-obtrusive way to get PageFilter information for a given page. The header the HTML I like because I turn it on, I find out what's going on, and hopefully by the time my IMUS users realize something, the left nav's not working the way they thought, by the time they call me, I say, what are you talking about? Because I've already turned it off, and IMUS is working fine. So just a kind of interesting little bit of tidbit there for you in terms of tracking what's going on. So Zach, I'm going to let you take it away.
Cool. Thanks so much, Doug. So some other important tips when you're installing and using PageFilter on your web server, which is where you wish to use the application most commonly. You can also install PageFilter on any workstation as long as it has network access to that web server where PageFilter is running. So if you're looking to do some remote configuration of your PageFilter rules, you just need to make sure that you have the read-write access to the website directory via your network share. So that includes the web.config file and the PageFilter.settings file from where PageFilter is actually running. So some new things for people that may have had PageFilter for a long time. PageFilter is now a desktop application, and there's a couple reasons behind that. The first one is increased security. So we wanted to make it more secure. Previously, PageFilter was a browser tool, and we felt that making it a desktop application increased our security. The other thing that we really added with the desktop application is better error recording and troubleshooting, similar to a lot of our other products that you may own. So some new things, it now works with Rise and iParts. So that's huge. As people are upgrading to 20, they're using Rise much more. And really, there's a lot of things that they want to change and really make the member experience better for their members. You can also now remove PageFilter from a site, which is something that we added. There's a new enhanced license key area as well. And even if you're on a new version, this could still be something that's a new feature to you. PageFilter is now licensed by domain. The great thing, though, don't care how many domains you have. We just need to know what domains you're licensing it for, and then we'll create a specific key for those licenses, or for those domains. So if you wanted to use it for your main site, maybe you had some auxiliary sites that you wanted to use PageFilter on, it's totally fine. We just need to know, because that's how the license key is created. So let's say you want it. You want the newest version. So the first thing would be check to see what version you guys have now. How you do that is you'd click the big question mark in the right corner when you're in PageFilter, and it'll give you the information under the About PageFilter section. If this doesn't look normal to you, or if you have to go to the web browser, that means you have a very old version, so you should probably download the latest one. And how would you do that? You go to our website, csinc.com. You're going to click on Login. It's going to look like that, at least today. We are going to be updating our website in the coming weeks here, so you'll still have a login section, but it's going to look a little different. And when you go to login, you probably forgot what your login and password was. You got it when you first purchased the product. That's fine. Just feel free to email sales@csinc.com, and they will go ahead and send you your new credentials. And once you're in, you're going to scroll down to the current product releases. That's where you're going to see any of the products of ours that you own and you're current on your support with. So it's going to look like this. So you'll notice we've got PageFilter here. You can view the product. That'll take you back to the product page, but you can download the product as well as the user guide. Or maybe you have a somewhat new version and you want to read the documentation before you download the newest version. You can also do that and just view the actual documentation first and see what changes were made, and then decide if you want to upgrade to the newest version. So once you've downloaded it, it's going to save as a zip file. You're going to save it on your computer. I like to save it on my Erase Me directory on my computer. That way I know it's something that I can delete later. And when you go to run the setup, this is something that's very important for all of our products, not just PageFilter. But you want to make sure that you run it as the administrator. All of our products need those rights to make sure that they install everything that they need to run properly. So typically it is user installable, but if you have not upgraded in a while, maybe you're coming from that web-based version, there's some things in the README that you're going to want to read. I know it sounds silly, but that is why it's called the README. And then you're going to need your license key. So whether it's a first time or maybe you're adding a domain, if you don't have the license key, feel free to also email sales@csinc.com, and they can go ahead and either send you what you already have for your license key or create a new license key if you're adding some domains. So what if you get stuck? So like I said, the manual is installed with the program, so that's a great resource. That should be the first thing you check before for anything if you're running into any issues. We have a full-time QA department. They spend a good deal of time, on this documentation, making sure that it's robust and kind of covers anything that you might run into. But we know sometimes there are other things, right? And so that's where you'd email support@csinc.com. And when you do that, make sure you include as much information as possible about the problem. If you just email us and say, my page filter is not working, well, that's not super helpful in helping us diagnose your issue. So if you can attach a screenshot, that's great because it's a really good idea of what's going on at the time of the issue. Any information that you can give is going to help us really assess the issue. So our typical turnaround time is about 2 business days. For those of you in Australia, right now you guys are starting your day. A lot of us have ended our day, so if you don't hear anything, your first day, that's pretty normal. We're going to get to you the next day in the morning, which will be when you're sleeping. So we try to get within that first business day, but our typical turnaround time can be up to 2 business days. So if you've got a great idea for an enhancement and you want to submit that to us, you'd also email support@csiinc.com. We review these enhancement requests about once a month or so, and if it's something that makes sense for the community, makes sense for the product, it's something that we'll add to our development queue. If it's something that maybe we're going to table for a while and revisit, we'll let you know, and that's how we handle those. So if you're wondering if we're having other events like this, yeah, you can go to csiinc.com/webinars, and that's where you'll see any future webinars that are scheduled. I know next month we're going to be covering iEmail as well as Meeting Closer. But you can also see all of our previous webinars. All of the recordings are there, and they're on that same page, csiinc.com/webinars. This is another question that we get a lot. Can we help you create your page filter rules? Well, sure, but it's not part of the support agreement. So it's something that would be a billable event, but if it is something that you guys are looking for consultant help with, we're more than happy to help you with that. If you're looking to show your coworkers the power of PageFilter, there's a couple places that you can direct them. The first would be csiinc.com/PageFilter. This is a page where it gives a brief overview of the product, more of a marketing and sales feel to it, and a very short video to kind of cover what the product does. And then you can also feel free to direct them to the webinars page, which is where you'll get this presentation as well as any of our previous ones. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys, and let's see if you have any questions right now.
Zach, we've got one. They'd like to show us how we've created the rules that we ran in PageFilter. So if you can jump into PageFilter, let's spend a little time looking at those rules.
Sure. Okay. So let's take this first one. I'm going to open up IMUS here too, or I guess our Rise page, just so we can kind of talk through this. So when you're creating a rule, the first part is you need to name the rule, and then you're going to create the condition. Now the condition is basically identifying the page in which you want the rule to run. So that's where when Doug was talking about the debug mode, that's where you're going to find the actual URL of that page. Because you may be changing something on the page, or you may be changing something about a specific iPart. Each iPart has its own URL, so that's why the debug mode is extremely important. So let's say it was this membership area, right? I want to change where it said IMUS ID. So I'd inspect the element, and if you scroll to the top, that's where you're going to have the page filter information. That's going to give you that page URL. So if we go back to that rule, that's where I got these URLs here. And there's multiple conditions that you can select. You can do request URL, HTTP header, or HTTP method. In this case, since I know the URL, I'm going to request that, and I'm going to have it match what that URL returned. You can also have is exactly or starts with, and if you're trying to have it affect multiple things on the page, that's where you'd use those other areas. So once you've identified the target area, that's where you're going to add the actions. And these are the things that you actually want changed. So in this case, I've got an action where I'm going to find the text. So I'm using my find and replace action. I'm going to put in the text I want to find, it's IMUS ID, and I'm going to replace it with member number. You also have options where you can remove text, insert before, or insert after. And then you've also got a couple other action types where you can inject files, You can do regex find and replace, as well as the URL redirects. So once you've created the rule, it's here. You can enable it or you can disable it. It's very simple to do. You can also delete conditions or delete actions. So if you had maybe a couple of rules on this page and you wanted to get rid of a few and you know you're not going to use them, you can just delete it, or you can always edit it as well. So I hope that gave you a good idea, but if not, feel free to type in, or if we're brave enough, we can even unmute you.
Mm-hmm. I'll also point out, Zach, you do have 2 actions on this. You can have multiple conditions and multiple actions going on at once. And then we did, one of the things that we, an oversight in the app, there's no way to export or import a rule. And we think that would be a really cool addition, so that if you did create something really nifty and you wanted to share with the community, we could just have a place where you could share those rules. So hey, I found a way to do this with PageFilter, and check this out, and I put it out there because, as Zach said, it's for a technical type user. You do need to know a little bit about HTML and some fun things on that rule that he showed. It's just looking for IMS ID. If that happened to appear somewhere else in the page as part of a control or something like that, you could break the page. So that's why you have the ability to test this stuff out and undo it if needed. Ben, I hope that answered your question. If not, like I said, you can let us know.
Cool. And you also notice while we're on here, so like I said, when I was going in there, I hit the edit, but I could delete the whole row. Now get rid of everything on that, as well as the option to clone it. So if you have something similar, and you don't want to go through all the steps, you can also clone the rule and then just go in and edit the cloned one with the small changes that you might have.
Zach, that's all I'm seeing right now. Anybody else on the phone? If you want to pull up that your last slide there, and just email if you have any questions.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, I really appreciate everyone taking time out of their morning or evening. There's my email address. You can also feel free to email sales@csi.com. That goes to a myriad of people at CSI, so you'll be sure to definitely get a response from somebody in a fairly timely manner. But other than that, I want to thank you guys all for taking the time. I think we hit just short of 30 minutes, so I'm going to get you out a minute early here, and hope everybody enjoys their day.
Oh, Jesse wanted to know about the caching.
Oh.
Go ahead, Zach. I'll let you handle that one.
Oh, of course you will. Well,
I should have hung up.
But Jesse, I know you better than that. So I will email you a detailed response. I'll have Jake write up something of really how that works. But I believe that basically what the caching does is it allows you to get some time. So as you notice, when I made the changes to the rule, it happened immediately, right? If you wanted to not have that happen and kind of give yourself some time, you can cache it and you can determine how long that's going to be. But Jake can give you a much better nerdy technical answer for sure.
Yeah, it's designed it's designed to improve performance. So if you had a page that was being hit really hard, and the HTTP handler's got to keep modifying that page, even though it's not modifying it, it's not changing. You can improve performance by enabling the caching, and that's going to really be used for pages that are hit hard. If you just have a member page where it's editing profiles and stuff like that, you probably won't see much use for that. But if you have an event site where you have 1,000 people trying to register, the caching is really going to help with performance. The event changes tab, Zach?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yes. So this is just another rule that I had made where on our events page, and this is for a specific event, I wanted to change a lot of stuff. I wanted to change register myself to sign up for this event. Just lots of language changes to clear up the user experience, but also be a little bit more professional than what might be out there.
So Ben, those are Zach's rules that he has across there. So each one he is named. He's named the member page replacement. That was his name. He made a rule called event changes. So basically, that's the name of one of the rules that he made that involves the conditions, what needs to happen, and then the actions, what's going to change on those pages. So the 4 tabs you see are 4 demo tabs, if you will. I'm sorry, tabs, 4 demo rules, if you will. We wanted to show the ability to change events. Commerce is adding the pound sign and member page. But here's Zach actually making a new rule for you. Wow, that's really nice, Zach.
Well, you know, Ben's a guy, so he's a really nice guy, and he deserves his own rule. So you could just go in here, and once you saved everything, you'll notice that if you don't have the information in here, it's not going to let you save it. So it's got some things in here to protect you from yourself. So I don't have any conditions. I don't have any actions. It needs that, right? So once I created that, then it would create a new tab, and that'd be Ben's rule there. And Ben, if
you guys, you're ruining it because I did stop the recording about 5 minutes ago. So those are good questions.
So Ben, if you're interested in a more personal demo for you and your staff, where you want to maybe run through some scenarios, we're more than happy to set up something as well.
All right, oh, great. Okay, you said great, thanks. That was another question. I was going to just end the meeting really quick so no one else could ask questions. So thanks, you guys. I appreciate you taking the time to be on there. We'll talk to you soon. I think next month we're doing iEmail and what else? Meeting closer, Zach?
Meeting closer, yep.
Meeting closer and iEmail will be next week. And I think we'll be showing iEmail Cloud during that time as well, our newest add-in for Outlook Web Access.
Cool. Well, have a great day, guys.